Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx and WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and we are so back. We officially have a new CBA deal between the WNBA and the Players Association, meaning we're all go on a 2026 WNBA season. After I will admit I was very skeptical on if I wasn't skeptical on if a season would start or a CBA deal would be reached and we would have a season. I was more skeptical on when the season would start and how much it would be delayed. But after a 100+ hour marathon negotiation period, the WNBA and the WNBPA agreed to terms on a new CBA deal that will set the stage for the WNBA season to starting as scheduled, as planned. Everything will be normal. It's going to make for a hectic April, but we officially have a WNBA season to look forward to, which is I think it's in the best interest of everybody involved, the league, the players, the teams, the fans. It's just good for everybody involved, and it's great to see them finally come to an agreement after what feels like about 3.5 years. And honestly, it's been over a year. It's been 17 months that they've been negotiating this deal or kind of going back and forth on this deal. And it obviously came to a head here over the last week or so. And the two sides finally did agree to a new CBA. I'll jump a little bit into what we know so far. I wrote a piece at Canosupis and canosupis.com that you can check out with a lot of this detail here too. But it's based off of reporting that others have reported, that being Alexa Philippou, Annie Costabel from Front Office Sports, Megan Hall from USA Today. All of them have been phenomenal. Jackie Paul and Doug Feinberg they were all camping out outside of the negotiations in New York. This is all their reporting. It's not mine. So I appreciate all of their work that they have done in providing us all this information. But this is what we know so far. For the first time ever, player salaries are directly tied to the league revenue, which will only allow for the salaries to continue to grow, the salary cap to continue to grow, which is what we see in other leagues. But now, for the first time ever, the WNBA and the players finally have that as well. Supermax salaries for the players will surpass the $1 million mark. I know Shams Charania from ESPN reported 1.4 million. So we'll see what that official number is, but over 1 million, which is great. Average player salaries would be beyond $500,000, which is double what basically the highest paid player was in 2025. So that's awesome for everybody involved. The salary cap for the 2026 season will start roughly at $7 million. That's up from, I think it was 1.5 million in 2025. And that number, like I said, will continue to grow based on league revenue, the growth of the league, and just how much money the league is making over the years. And then the final thing, not the final, but the last thing that I'll mention here is the average revenue share over the life of this new CBA deal will be nearly 20%. So that is the revenue share that the players will be getting based on what the league is making in totality. But regardless of what the numbers are, regardless of what the details are for this, the WNBA season will start as planned. The players and in the league have agreed to come together after what has been a very back and forth, I would admit, frustrating negotiation period. I know it's been frustrating for both sides that are directly involved, but specifically for the fans, everybody involved, because everybody just wants a WNBA season. Everybody wants the players to get paid more, obviously, than what they have been, and getting the money that they rightfully deserve. So it's great for everybody involved. And like I said, we're gonna operate as normal here over the next, I guess you could say, month and a half left of this off season before we hit opening night on May 8th. But we're gonna hit the ground running. Where it's gonna be fast and furious here over the next 3-4 weeks. And I'll run through the schedule here as far as what the off season will look like. And eventually we'll get to the recording of this podcast of myself and Andrew Dukowitz, who we go into this in more detail and kind of break down a bunch of stuff from the Lynx side and just the CBA deal in itself. But as far as the offseason schedule, the rest of this offseason, everything will start basically April 1. So that means we have about a week and a half before things start, that we start to see off-season stuff finally take place. The expansion draft for the two newest teams, that being the Toronto and Portland, that will take place between that first or in that first week in April. So between April 1st and April 6th, it's all based on when this CBA deal becomes official. It has to go to the players first for vote, and then it goes to the NBA or WNBA Board of Governors for them to vote on it as well. But once that is finalized, then the expansion draft can continue or basically the whole offseason can start, but the expansion draft can take place and then everything else can follow after that. We don't know the exact details of the expansion draft. The only thing we have to go off of is what took place with Golden State in 2025, where teams could protect up to 6 players. And whoever was left unprotected, then Golden State got to select a player from each team. And they selected a player from all but one team. But we don't know if that's exactly what's going to be taking place this year. We don't know what the protector rules are. We don't really know anything about it. And quite frankly, I don't even know if the teams know about what the exact deals or the details are for that. But that will be something that'll be worked out here over the next probably coming days or even coming week. But after that April 1st, April 6th timeline, qualifying offers for free agents can start April 7th. So it'll be April 7th and April 8th. The negotiation period for free agents will take place between April 9th and 11th. The signing period will occur April 12th through the 18th. And then right at the start of that free agency period, so I said it started April 12th to the 18th, the WNBA draft will take place April 13th. So the second day of the signing period of free agency, which will be hectic, but that will be fine. And then training camps commence right after that. They commence league-wide on April 19th. Preseason starts April 25th. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the WNBA season gets underway on May 8th. So there's a lot. There's a lot that's got to happen. Like I said, it's gonna be a hectic, basically whole month of April. There's gonna be something happening every week, almost probably every day. But that's what we wanted. That's what we were hoping for, and that's the reality we're dealt with, which will be entertaining for fans. So I hope you enjoy that. I will be getting no sleep. I think myself and a lot of other people are going to be getting no sleep over the month of April. But that's quite all right because as long as that means that we have a WNBA season coming up and something to look forward to, that is all good and grand. But it's been a long off season. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a long off season. There hasn't been a lot of stuff to talk about. And I appreciate you guys all following and sticking with us here at Hitting the Hardwood and our 4 podcasts that we do have, 3 based on the Lynx and the WNBA and 1 on the NBA and the Timberwolves. But it's been tough to be able to talk about the unknown, and you only can talk about it so much. So now that we finally have stuff to look forward to, we have dates, we know what's going to be happening when. Things will get a lot more interesting to talk about and a lot more, a lot easier to talk about when it comes to the WNBA season. But before I get into that, I want to, before we get into the podcast, I should say, I want to just kind of throw out a teaser. We've dropped this over the last few months. It was, this has been waiting since probably November of last year, or this past year, that we have something special coming in here at Hitting the Hardwood, something exciting that we're excited to announce. We were waiting for the new CBA deal to be agreed upon. But here over the next week or two, keep an eye on our social media because there will be some more news on something, like I said, that we're really, really excited to provide you guys with. And it's only going to continue to grow our coverage here at Hitting the Hardwood and what we provide you all with the latest WNBA and Minnesota Lynx news in just Minnesota sports news. So it's really exciting that I really want to just tell you right now, but I'm gonna hold off and wait for the announcement. So stay tuned for that. Follow us, Hitting the Hardwood on social media. Sign up for our newsletter. Check out our like I said, our social media pages, and we'll have some more information here over the next coming days and coming weeks. But with that said, Andrew Dukowitz and I sat down, and it took me 10 minutes to figure out my microphone for some reason, but we we got everything figured out. The technology was giving me a hard time, but we got everything figured out. We sat down, we broke down everything, CBA related. The rest of the offseason, we really dove into the Minnesota Lynx specifically, what that looks like for the expansion draft with the Lynx, maybe what players they might protect, who they might leave unprotected. We talk about the free agency, WNBA drafts. We break down the roster and who we think will be coming back, and just what we think the roster will look like. And then we just kind of ramble about a little bit of everything. So, without further ado, I'll play the recording here in a second, but I just first want to say thank you all for sticking with us all off season long. We have a lot of exciting stuff, as I mentioned, coming, but a lot of exciting stuff ahead with just the WNBA season and WNBA action returning. So thank you once again, and let's jump right into the podcast with Andrew Dukowitz.
Mitch, let's do banter. How is Mitch? How have you been?
The fact that it took me about 10 minutes to actually plug my microphone in and get it to work today is about how today's going. But technology is not my friend today. I don't know what the deal is. But hey, we have a new CBA deal. We have a season that's actually starting on time. We've been talking about this for what feels like a year now. But we finally have a deal, and all is well. It's going to get busy here, but it's finally happening.
McKinney, you have this same amount of short-term memory that I have. I literally walked upstairs to grab a water bottle, and I came back with a Diet Coke, and I don't know why I have it, because I didn't want that, but I have it. I mean, I'll be honest. My day hasn't been as hectic as yours. I'm glad we got the mic to work, even though we have no clue what happened.
Yeah.
My day has just been like, my phone is like hot to the touch from just like rumors, things coming in, texts. I can't tell you how crazy it's been today of just no one knows what's happening, because they can't release any of the details until it's like actually signed by the owners and stuff. But like, of the leaks that have come out, I'm very excited. How about you?
Yeah, I am too. I mean, first and foremost, just the fact that they were able to get a dang deal done was a positive thing. But looking at from where the players started at, I mean, you could play both sides of this, where the league started at, the players started at, but just looking at it from the players' side, from where they started at to where they finished, reportedly, I mean, it's not I don't think as great as they had hoped, but it's still much better than what they had, and that's obviously the most important thing. We'll get into the details, but obviously the salary wise is, the salary that will be a part of the new CBA, and it will only continue to grow throughout the life of this CBA deal. That is, an incredible amount higher than what they currently had, or they had in the previous CBA. So I'm excited. I love this for the players. I love this for the league. I also love the fact that fans won't have a shortened season. It won't impact the fans. If anything, it's going to be more exciting for fans, just because the next 2 weeks are going to be absolute chaos, and 2-3 weeks. But it's exciting. March is an exciting time of the year for any basketball fan, that being March Madness. The start of, you're looking forward to the WNBA season. Everything's just kind of ramping up. But now this just adds to it, and it just kind of adds a relief, a sigh of relief for a lot of people that, okay, we don't have to talk about this anymore. It's finally done. We can move forward and just focus on basketball, which is the most important thing.
King of B says Lynx are so back, which Lynx are so back. Like, it feels good to actually. Mitch and I were literally texting last night was it? Yeah, it was literally last night of like, it sucks because like what are we going to do a podcast on? You know what I mean? We'll come in and we'll just be like, yeah, there's still nothing. Nothing is new. Nothing has changed. Like there's no content. And I think that like void just sucked for like the WNBA media landscape. I mean, we should be talking about free agents right now. We should be talking about draft right now. McKinney mentions if we can explain the expansion draft. To the best of our knowledge, we will try. Not a lot of details out there on it, but we can kind of, based off of things that have leaked out, speculate a little bit. But
I don't even think the teams necessarily know what the expansion draft is going to look like yet.
I don't think they can, like, until the CBA, like, logistically, CBA has to go to the board of governors and the owners. They have to sign off on it. That's the league basically signing the contract, and then the Players Association will sign it as well. I will say, like, historically, if you're looking at the NBA, NFL, MLB, sometimes there is pushback from owners of, hey, we kind of want this to be a little bit different. So I think that's why they're not saying the expansion draft is going to happen for another week or so, because I would assume there's a little bit more back and forth. But the fact that they are like, this is the core of the deal, let's move, I think is really encouraging. Let's kind of start off with just like the timeline of events, which I got a couple things confirmed. I got some other things that are still just like floating out in the ether that we're taking wild stabs on. But essentially the offseason is going to be expansion draft will be the first week of April. Don't know what day yet. Don't know really what goes into that, but first week of April. So that gives them kind of 2 weeks to, a week to figure out, like, all right, let's hammer out any details that the owners have issues with or anything like that. And then another week for teams to basically process and figure out what this expansion draft is going to look like. Literally 5 days after the expansion draft, it's been reported that WNBA free agency will start on 4/7 and will go through the 18th. WNBA draft is slotted for 4/13. Training camp is expected to start around 4/20. I would assume that makes sense just from, I mean, that's the Monday before the first preseason games start. Like that logistically is just me assuming. Media day probably sometime in that week. And then regular first preseason game 25th, regular season starts on the 10th. I mean, it is going to be from 2 weeks from now until the season starts, it is going to be nonstop news every single day, right?
Yeah, it's gonna come fast and furious. I mean, I think, maybe the quiet period, quote unquote, would be maybe the expansion draft and that qualifying offer span from like April 1st, April 8th. And I say that because yes, there's going to be the expansion draft and there will be news there. We will hear about qualifying offers that are being made and players maybe agreeing to those, whatever. But it really doesn't become official until you get to that negotiating period, the signing period. And then really from when that starts, April 9th, that negotiating period through, the end of April, it's going to just be nonstop. And, probably the first, that week of, it's not a full week, but the week around, April 9th to about April 13th is going to be chaotic because you're going to have negotiating period for 2 days. You're going to have free agency for a week, and then you're going to have the draft within that at the beginning of free agency. So it's going to be absolute chaos over that specific week. But I mean, it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be something every single day, which for fans, they should love that because it's just going to be nonstop.
And like, if this goes well, I do think it gives the league kind of a blueprint of like, how can we get the most bang for our buck in seasons going forward? Like they're kind of trapped with the WNBA draft, but like if they're able to kind of do what the NFL does, where you have a little bit of free agency before, a little bit of free agency after, and kind of dominate most of March and April, like half of the NBA teams are tanking right now. Like there's no one's watching Utah except for me tonight. There is space for the WNBA to jump on this. Like it's hockey, I don't think has the draw that some people think it does. Like if the WNBA can turn this into an event, it's before the NFL draft, it's after the NFL season. MLB isn't really doing anything. Like it's just prime for them. Kinga mentions shout out to Alexa, Annie, Jackie, and Doug for camping out in Manhattan for like 9 days. The fact that Doug doesn't have a full beard at this point was rather impressive, because I would have given up. Day 2, I would have just been like, neckbeard's coming back. I don't know what to tell you.
But to your point, when it comes to the momentum too, you're also carrying off of the March Madness, which is key, because we've seen in past years where free agency's in February, and then you have March Madness, and then you have the draft, and it kind of just feels like a slow trickle into the WNBA season, where now everybody's watching March Madness already, and as soon as March Madness is over, people are like, all right, I want my basketball fix. Like, basketball's gone. What can we do now? We have the NBA, but that college game is over. Well, now immediately after, you're going to be getting into WNBA stuff, and you're going to be getting into preseason action, training camp, whatever. So it is nice that they're capitalizing on that. And literally, like, the day after is when the free agency qualifying offer period starts. So they're carrying the momentum, for which I think will be great for women's basketball in general.
I also just think free agency this year, I think, is going to be very similar to NBA and NFL free agency, where day 1, if it opens at 8 a.m., there are going to be 100 deals done at 8 a.m., which inexplicably crazy, because they're not supposed to talk to each other and tampering doesn't happen.
Right.
But like, I do think this is going to be a really exciting time for fans, because it's just going to be from the second March Madness is done, it's just going to be a sprint. And then the regular season starts again. That sprint goes right up to the regular season, which for some fan bases, they're going to have a lot of new players. For other fan bases, might be kind of the same old new teams. It's going to be, I think this is a better model than what they've done in the past, just from like a generating excitement. Kingaby adds, do you think Cheryl is not talking to K-Mac right now? I mean, they're literally in the same building today and yesterday. The Lynx posting photos of K-Mac getting shots up, and Cheryl, I believe, is in town. So
yeah.
I'm not reporting they're talking, but it would be an awkward pass in the hall if they haven't seen each other.
But I do think too, like when you were talking about that first day, I think a lot of teams are going to have things figured out between that April 9th and April 11th, the negotiating window, or that negotiating period. You're going to have a lot of stuff set up to where there is going to be a lot of signings on the 12th, and potentially that first half of April 13th. Leading up to the draft, teams are going to try and get, because in past years, what has happened? We've had free agency in February. You have a majority of your roster figured out, or you have the look and feel of your roster figured out. Then you carry into the draft. This year's a little different, where you're having them at the same time. I won't even try and say that word. At the same time.
A long day.
Tongue twister.
We're writers, not orators.
I can type it out. No problem. But that first day is going to be key for a lot of teams, especially if you're trying to sign somebody away from another team. You're going to have to be really, really aggressive, basically from 12:01 a.m. on April 12th, up until draft time. And I'm not saying that it won't continue afterwards, because it will continue after the draft. There's 5-6 days or whatever after that, or 5 days after the draft. But it's going to be fast and furious. You're going to see a lot of the big name players, a lot of the people that are kind of shoo-ins to return. You're going to see them sign immediately. But I think this year more than ever, we're going to see a lot of 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. signings, because players just want to get it out of the way right away and make it official right away. So it makes it a little easier for people that are writing about it, because then you can just compile everything into one story and write about it. But I'm just thinking selfishly now.
I think the other thing that might take fans by surprise is Shams tweeted out kind of officially that the WNBA salary cap is going to be $7 million this year, $300,000 vet minimum contract, which again, the fact that the minimum contract in the WNBA is going to be more than the highest paid player from last year is incredible that they were able to do it. But like this $7 million number, from what I've gathered is just kind of an arbitrary, they threw this number out and it stuck. Next year's cap is going to be set off of 20% of the basketball revenue from 2026. I mean, this is a team that has a USA Network NBC deal, a Amazon Disney deal, Ion still in the mix. They set record ticket attendance last year. I've heard that finally player likenesses are going to be included. I can't confirm that because I heard that like fourth hand, but like if they're approaching like the $500 to $600 million in revenue, and then you have, you know, NBA outside investors cleave their 60%, you're left over with like $240 million, and the players are getting 20% of that for the cap. They could go from like 7 million to 35 million from literally this summer to next summer, which I think next summer is going to be like, if that's how the deal is laid out, and that's kind of how I presently understand it, it's going to be a ton of 1-year contracts again this year. And people cashing in next year, because a jump from 7 to like 28, 30, 35, then you're talking about max contracts at like 10 million.
Yeah, I do think a lot of players are going to sign 1-year deals just to even see what it's like, or see what it might be next year. Because we've never really had this before. It's been, regardless of the CBA, it's been kind of the same salary year in and year out. It's steadily increased over the last, few years, whatever. But now it's based on what they do and how they do it. And that's a game changer. And to your point, I do think that there are going to be a lot of 1-year deals, or maybe even players that, we said that going into the 2025 season, that maybe, X, Y, and Z player is going to be signing with a different team. Maybe they're playing for the Lynx, they're signing with, Phoenix. Maybe that next year they're coming back to Minnesota because they just went to go get a 1-year deal. They went to go get their money, and now they're coming back to where they feel comfortable and where they want to be. We could see a lot of that this year too. You never really know. And players are smart. They know what they're doing. They know they're not thinking just about this year. They're thinking about what this could be next year, what this could be 5 years from now. And that's what it's supposed to be. That's why you have the people in the positions on the executive committee that you do of the players union. And credit to them. They fought for what they wanted, and they held out, and they got at least a majority of what they wanted. I think, or a portion of what they wanted. Maybe not all of it, but this is something we've never experienced before or ever seen, and it's truly historic.
I mean, even across sports, like you think about the new TV contracts coming into the NBA that led to like Tyler Johnson making a ton of money. Like that was the cap jumping by like 8%, not 300%.
Right.
And I mean, the NBA's had like a 40 to 50% revenue share since the 80s, like football, baseball, all those like we've never seen just a league go from a $1.4 million salary cap to 7 to like 25. And I just think with that, some players might look at it of like, if I get $1 million contract, I'll go anywhere. Like that's money that I would have never made doing this. I think the flip side of it is when you're signing 1-year deals, there's a lot more incentive to kind of stay with where your value is. So like getting into the Lynx side of it more, like if you're T and that you could cash in next year bigger than you could cash in this year, why not take another 1-year deal for more than you've made in your entire career combined to play for the Lynx for 1 year? If you're Court, you're going to put up good stats with the Lynx, so you can cash in next year. Shepherd, even. I mean, I think it behooves a lot of players to be like, okay, I put up good stats with this team. I can do one more team there, or one more year there, and then cash in the future, which I guess I kind of just assumed they would just, whatever the revenue share is, they're just going to start it at it this year and not kind of have like a bridge year going into it. I honestly think the Lynx are going to have like a really good puncher's chance to keep everyone at this point, because people are going to cash in next year. Why not stay with your friends, right?
Right. I could also see, just to kind of play devil's advocate, I could see somebody like, let's say, Jess Shepherd, that maybe she could get more money at another team. Maybe she goes, gets more money this year, then considers coming back to the Lynx with the increased salary. We could see some of that too, where maybe even if it's 300,000-400,000 more than what she would get maybe in Minnesota or whoever would get with their current team. Maybe they do that and then they come back when it is at 5 million or, whatever. I'm just throwing that number out there. But like, you never know what players, I mean, money talks, but I mean, to your point, yes, I do agree that we could see a lot of players are comfortable where they're at. A lot of Lynx players, they've talked about that. I know it's with other teams too, but specifically with the Lynx players that we've gotten to know over the last year plus, like they're comfortable with where they're at. And it is a lot moving to another team to be on the move again after that. So it very well could be that people just stay put and say, you know what, it's not worth picking up, myself and maybe my family or whoever to go somewhere else for a year and then be potentially looking for another home after that.
Kinga, after Nay took her contact from the dirty floor and put it directly into her eye with no solution, I became, I will not be telling Nay that she needs to dance on this team next year, because that type of toughness is more toughness than I will ever have. And I don't want to ruffle those feathers, but she danced like twice. I have hope. I think the longer people are here, the more they embrace kind of the tacky Lynx stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, let's kind of get into this though. McKinney, if you're still in here, brought it up earlier, but just how the expansion draft will go for the Tempo and the Fire. I kind of what we have to go off of is ESPN leaked or reported out, kind of how this draft would go, with so much of the league being a free agent back in like January, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard anything different than that since January, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but what it would be is you get to basically look at your roster from last year. So the 2024 Lynx, you can protect 6 players. That doesn't mean you can sign them. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed to come back, but it means that they can't be pilfered in a expansion draft,
mm-hmm.
which I think honestly that makes this a little more interesting, because then it's like, do you protect a Courtney Williams, or do you kind of, if the Fire want to give Courtney Williams $3 million a year, do you kind of tempt them into that? Do you protect Dejanay and BC? Do you protect? I know the last time we talked about it, both of us kind of had Ola on our protections list of like, that is a cheap young contract in a new world here. I guess if that's what they plan on doing moving forward, like kind of where do you have your feelings on who the Lynx would protect? I'll also say very likely that this is all kept behind the scenes and we have no clue who they protect, just like with the Valkyries drafts.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll know who any team is protecting like we did last year. Like it's one of those things where if teams don't have to disclose that information, they're not going to, because you're just going to upset the players on your team that maybe were left unprotected. I do. Yeah. It is similar to kind of what the layout was last year with Valkyries, where they protected 6 players. And then the Valkyries could just kind of pick from those unprotected players, or, the expansion teams can pick from those unprotected players. If that is indeed the case, and most teams will know probably 5-ish players that are coming back for sure.
Yep.
The Lynx, I think, have 5-6 players that they know are willing to come back or want to come back. Now, so that makes it a little easier with the 6. If it's that way for the Lynx, and let's say all of the top 7 players in the rotation want to come back, I think they would protect Courtney Williams, Natisha Heidemann, Kayla McBride, Nafisa Collier, Lana Smith, and then maybe Ola. Or maybe you leave Heidemann off of that list, and maybe you do BC. I'm not sure when it comes to BC, I personally think Minnesota is going to either let her get taken in an expansion draft or see what free agency looks like. If they can get her for a good deal, they're going to re-sign her. If she gets money from another team, I think it's same thing with Jess Shepard. I think they're okay with letting those players go. And I say that because it's an unusual free agency this year with 80% of the league free agents. It's a lot easier to replace this year than it is in any other year. So I think that's where the flexibility comes this year. Ben, to your point with Dorco's another, you have to consider her too. If she is coming back this year, I would imagine she would be especially if somebody like a Jess Shepard would end up leaving. But
Dorca is the one for me that I haven't heard anything solid that she's coming back. So until someone says like Dorca plans to return to the WNBA, I'm kind of looking at, it is what it is. Like, I don't know if you don't know for certain she's back, which Cheryl will know, I would assume. But also, like, Cheryl didn't know that she was going to take last year off until like 3 days before training camp. Maybe she doesn't know. I think that's something where, like, you're spot on. I think Fee, Lan, K-Mac are like 3 locks that you got to protect. Court, I would personally protect just because I think when you're looking at point guards out there, I mean, there's maybe 4 that are better than Court, but Court and Cheryl have this weird connection that like, I think you can win a ring with Court. And then like I don't know if I would do T. I would try to get Dejanay if she's willing to come back. And then I do think Ola is, I mean, what she's doing in the Russian league right now at 20 years old, like, I think you just have to, I just think you have to keep her on this team, especially if the rookies aren't going to get immediately jumped into the new salary structure. Then you have her making $60,000 when the league minimum is 300.
Right.
It just makes it make sense. Jude brings up a good point of like, they are all free agents. Is it a pick and core type of problem? I would assume, and this is just speculative, but like whoever the expansion teams pick, they are picking those the first round expansion draft picks, and those players are getting like a max contract on 2 years or something. And then it probably staggers down by draft pick from there. But I would assume that would be the only way it would even make it worthwhile to do an expansion draft, which then it kind of goes to like, again, do you leave BC unprotected and kind of dare Toronto or Portland to take her and make her a max player?
Well, I think like you brought up a good point with Dejanay Carrington too. Like if she wants to come back, I think you protect her in this because, and I say that because she could be the replacement for BC in the starting lineup, and then you fill in behind, whether that's in the draft, whether it's in free agency, whatever. So that part I agree with. That said, I don't know if she wants to come back or not. I don't know. And you could say the same thing about BC. You could literally say the same thing about everybody on the roster. But I do agree with that I think that they would protect her if that was the case. If she did want to come back, that is. Now BC, I could really see, Toronto grabbing her just for that. You look at the expansion draft, a new team or an expansion team, a new team coming into the league. What do you want to do? You want to attract fans. You want to, raise ticket sales. You want to be as profitable as you can in that first year. What's going to do that? A hometown kid or a home country kid, as Bridget Carleton is. So that part to me is interesting. And I think that if she's left unprotected, Toronto's really going to consider that. The
other thing I would add on the BC is Syl is on Portland staff.
Yeah.
So like there's also a connection there where it's, if Syl's really high on her, I think she's almost a risk to both of those places, but continue.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one thing that is kind of a downfall in the Lynx's viewpoint is they do have Sylvia Falls, who knows a lot of these players on the team, is very familiar with every single one of these players. Syl's very involved with the league in general. She's very familiar with a lot of the players, as are a lot of the coaches league wide. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I if I had to guess, and I'm not reporting this, I don't have I don't have any intel when it comes specifically to this, that if I had to guess, I think they'd leave BC unprotected and see what happens.
Yeah.
But the other side of things is who do they value in the draft? Are they looking point guard? Are they really targeting point guard? That's their pick that they're going to go with at number 2. If that's the case, maybe you reconsider. Maybe you protect BC and then you leave Courtney unprotected and see if somebody takes Courtney, or maybe that be HTH'er. So it all depends on who they value and what position they want. Let's say it's an AZ Fudd that they're really keying in on, and they hope that she falls to number 2. Well, then you could leave a BC unprotected. If she leaves, either you add somebody as kind of a stopgap to fill in that bridge player to fill in that role for a year, or maybe you throw DJ Carrington in there, or maybe AZ Fudd blows everybody away and is a starter day one. That could be an option too. But that's the tough thing too, is we have the the draft, and we don't know what the teams are thinking. We never know what Cheryl's thinking when it comes to a draft, but
I didn't have Ola on my board last year.
I did not either. I
didn't know she existed until after the draft.
I didn't either. Same thing with Maya Hirsch. That was a thing that kind of threw everybody off. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of avenues you can go with this when you're specifically talking about the Lynx. But I do think that they're going to be maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say risky, but they're going to, if this was a normal off season, maybe they protect, all 5 starters and then maybe like a Ola or a Dijonay off the bench as far as the 6 players go. But this off season is just so unique where there are so many players, and you should be able to attract somebody to come here out of the pool of players that are here. Just knowing Cheryl and how connected she is and how well respected she is among players. And then you have Nafisa Collier's leadership aspect that goes into everything. Courtney Williams, everybody loves Courtney Williams. Yeah. And Lan, as far as, her involvement with Unrivaled, I think that is very valuable. That's a very valuable league to build those relationships, and to, you never know how those relationships will pay off when it comes to a situation like this in the WNBA. But there's a lot that could happen, and it's nice that we're getting the expansion draft right away, because then teams can figure out what the heck they're going to do with the players that are gone.
Yeah.
And it was a little different when it came to this past off season, where they already had a full team, and then you kind of had to fill in which with who was getting selected. But
Mitch, I'm going to run us a couple ads here quick. First, I do want to answer this question from Pizza Man, just because I know you're in my lives quite a bit, of just Caitlin Clark being Larry Bird, a rival being similar to Larry Bird. So this is not like Caitlin Clark is Michael Jordan. I'm not making that comparison, because I think Caitlin Clark is a long way to go before she is Michael Jordan. But I liken the Asia Wilson, Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart as kind of the Larry and Magic type of influx of talent, where they were building this. It was going slower than it is now, but that core of players, Sabrina, I think you can throw in there, we're building something incredibly special. And then Caitlin Clark is like Jordan getting drafted in 86, where it just throws gasoline on the fire. Paige is I mean, whether you want to say it's Paige or Caitlin, that's the MJ, like that just supercharged everything.
Yeah.
I don't think Caitlin is closer to Bird, though. I really think it's the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson of it is much more similar to the Asia, Brianna Stewart. And then if you want to go back and say like the Maya Moore, all of that stuff there, but like that's probably more similar to like the Dr. J, like 70s era. And then if you want to go back even further to like the founding, that's like your Bill Russell era. But like, I would say Caitlin Clark arriving when she did is very similar to Bert or Jordan mid 80s getting drafted, and then it's just explodes. I am going to run a couple ads here before we get back to it. Bob has a great question about Houston, but first I do want to run some ads. I mean, mainly because you're my boss and I'll get in trouble if I don't, but also. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pentz Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pentz and the Pentz Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pentzhomes.com. Just to get to Bob's question here before we, bullet to our head, decide who's coming back to the Lynx based off of our best guesses. But Bob asks, selfish question down here in Houston, any potential for Connecticut Sun to still come to Houston as opposed to Boston, which I know is being kind of speculated about. I have heard nothing about this since CBA stuff started. I would assume that this is going to be kind of pushed back to, like you suggested, 2027. If not, maybe even 2028. I also wouldn't be surprised if there's more expansion teams in the near future. 14 is a weird number. I mean, 7 in each that's what it'll be after the two new teams, right? 14 or
15. 15. There was 13 this year.
15 is even a weirder number. Like, get that to like 18 so that you can have 6 playoff teams or so. I don't know. Moral of the story, I do kind of think Houston is prime for another chance at a team. I think Denver would be awesome. Like, get a team out there. It might just take until 2028 or so. Mitch, do you have any insight though?
I know, well, when it comes to the Houston thing, no, I think it would be, it's a very nostalgia kind of thing where you look at the NBA with the Seattle Supersonics, like maybe they should have never left Seattle. Kind of the same thing with Houston. I mean, Seattle deserves an NBA team. I think Houston deserves a WNBA team just for the historic factor of it. And they're great markets too for basketball. I think Houston would be a great fit. And there will be more, expansion teams here in the coming years. And maybe Connecticut is one of those relocation teams. I think they're gonna wait. The league is until they have a plan for who's going to be the expansion teams and where and when and how Connecticut and potentially Houston fits into all of that. The last thing you want is for Connecticut to sell a team to Boston and then you bring another team to New York. Like, you don't want that in the same region. So the league will have a heavy influence on this and they'll be involved with it. But I mean, now that we have the CBA, that maybe they shift focus back to that. But I do think that it's now pushed out a little bit just because of the delay that we've had.
I also think there's just other teams, like Atlanta plays in a gym with 1,700 people. Like, can they get relocated back to actually playing in Atlanta and not a suburb? Like, right. The Dallas Wings, like, I know they're doing what they can, but like, does that get brought up at some point of like just moving the Wings to Houston and kind of reviving that? Like, I think there's going to be some movement, which again, there's so much money involved now that I think it makes sense that more people are going to want to buy teams.
Yeah.
But
And I do think that having that Southern market is a great idea for, for the WNBA. Having a Houston there is perfect. The WNBA is already familiar with that area, with having San Antonio there before they relocated to Las Vegas. But with the next, what would it be? What is it, 2026? I always forget, but I forget that it's 2026.
Yep, this year is 2026.
It's all year, right? Over the next 4 years, we're going to get 3 more teams. We have Cleveland in 28, Detroit in 29, and Philadelphia in 2030. So, which doesn't feel like a real year, but you look at the demographics of those, that's all Midwest and East. Or West. Never eat soggy waffles. East.
Yep.
I say that to myself every time. Shout out my elementary school teacher.
Hey.
But even that'll bring it to 18, but there's nothing Southern. And I like adding a Southern team, and potentially even 2. If you sell, Connecticut, you take a team from the East Coast, you drop them down south, maybe you add another team maybe in the center of the United States, or maybe out west. It's a great, I think it's great to have that span of the country. And it has to be the right fit too. The last thing the WNBA wants to do is grow fast. And because that just, puts pressure on a lot of those new teams. And we've seen teams in the past when there has been expansions that haven't done well.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing that the league needs and wants, especially after agreeing to a CBA like they are now. They're banking on profitability, and they need to be strategic with where they're picking those expansion locations. They've hit 2 home runs or a home run with Golden State. I got to say that Golden State, that was a home run in the first year.
Yeah.
And now the WNBA is hoping that happens, here with these 2 new teams, and then teams coming in the coming years.
To your point, like the fact Denver, just knowing that city, like the fact they don't have a WNBA team is kind of wild. Like Bob mentions the Wings just built a new practice facility, so they'll probably stay. I mean,
have they finished it yet? I'm just kidding.
I just remember Dejanay's face when I asked her like about the Lynx facilities, and she was like, "They have an omelet bar here," and then people were showing me pictures of the breakfast cart with Tupperware cereal for the players in Dallas, and was like, woof, that's not what you want to cut corners at. Welcome Nate Pentz, presenting sponsor. How's it going, man? Let's talk a little Lynx roster though, because I think we're not going to be reporting anything, because again, no one really knows anything at this point, but I think there's breadcrumbs that have been laid. Like Kayla McBride being in the facility shooting jump shots today and yesterday.
The team doesn't post about her just for the heck of it.
Yep. Court and T being at the draft lottery, then also having Cheryl be with them at Unrivaled, at the one-on-one tournament. Fee has been, I would say, I would put it in blood that Fee is back on the Lynx. I would be absolutely shocked at this point if she is not. Land, they've been posting a ton about. Like, where's your let's just go like position by position. Like, what's your gut on point guards? Like, you have right now Jalen, Court, and T. I think would be the 3 point guards we'd be looking at.
Well, just before I get into that, going back to your point at the beginning, or as you just started this topic, that teams, what I want fans to know is teams do not post about players that they might not be coming back. Like, you look at all the the website, look at the advertisements, look at social media. If they're posting about a player, if they're posting about a certain amount of players, those are players that they know are they've got
at least interested.
Yes, yeah. It's not players that potentially might not be there. You look at trade rumors. When there's a player in trade rumors, when maybe teams are posting on social media, they're posting their game day graphics, whatever, they're not including that player. And there's a reason for it, because you don't want to post about a player that's potentially going to be leaving at any moment. But so that is just a little nugget. But to jump into the roster, I do think Courtney and T will both be back. I honestly think they're a package deal, and I do think that if T had the season that she did her first year in Minnesota, where she struggled a little bit and just struggled with her shot, just kind of seemed to not fit as well until this year where she turned it around. If she had that same year, that same first year, her second year, that being last summer, I think then you have to reconsider that position or that backup spot. But I do think those two are back. I think, you look at like, K-Mac, she will obviously be back. You said Fee will be back. I think Land's going to be back. No question. BC, I could see, we talked about this earlier, but I could see her being unprotected and leaving.
BC and let's let any feelings on Jalen Sherrod. I like her. I think she fits the culture, but
yeah, I mean, sure. I think that it's one of those players that, like, if you're looking to fill that spot, she could be an option. She's already familiar with here. She might be a great locker room fit. That stuff all plays a factor. I don't think that role is going to play a big part in this team at all. So I don't know. This isn't a knock on her, but I don't know if it necessarily matters who's in that spot. Now that being said, maybe that's something they look at in the draft. Maybe it's Olivia Miles or something like that. Maybe they're targeting that position. If that's the case, you could still have T, Court, and Olivia Miles on this roster. Maybe Courtney plays a little off ball. Then you have T and Olivia Miles playing more of the point guard. Courtney Williams played off ball earlier in her career. She's been great at point guard in Minnesota. She did that in Chicago right before she came to Minnesota. That was kind of her first introduction to that. Mm-hmm. But that could definitely be a possibility. And then maybe let's say BC leaves or BC goes to the bench. You have Kale McBride slide up to the 3, Courtney Williams up to the 2, and then whoever else in that point guard spot. That could be a possibility. And if I don't think Minnesota will go that way. I think they're pretty content with where they're at with that point guard or at the guard spot. I think they're going to look more wing or big. But that's certainly an option.
When you have a relationship with your point guard where you can openly call her Dory from Finding Nemo to the media after wins and losses.
Yeah.
I don't know. Especially in Cheryl's offense, when the point guard does everything, every possession starts with the point guard either doing a screen or setting something up. On defense, they're the top defender, attack dog on the team. Like, when you have that type of relationship and trust, Court's back. I would be very surprised if Courtney isn't back at this point.
I agree.
T, we talked about Jalen, assuming if she's back, great. If she's not, it kind of is what it is.
Right.
The wings are where I think you were getting into where I'm most interested, because K-Mac, again, she's in the building and the team's tweeting about it. K-Mac's back. I would assume K-Mac is back. Not a lot of Dejanay or BC from the team.
No,
not a lot of Dejanay or BC talking about the team or tweeting about the team. I know Dejanay has tweeted out some stuff about missing the stud buds. I mean, they're obviously good friends. I mean, behind them, I don't think anybody was necessarily inspiring on the wing spot. Cam Taylor obviously, made her WNBA debut, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of that shooting guard, small forward, I mean, it really is just kind of K-Mac. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel strongly about any of them or anything?
I could see if Dejanay wants to come back, I could see them bring her back. You don't make that trade and not bring her back or not try to bring her back. If they thought that there was maybe she was just a rental, I don't think Minnesota makes that move. Especially with, you gave up Diamond Miller, who Minnesota, took the number 2 or took at number 2 overall, and fits a kind of a position of need for them. So I do think that, there is a good shot that they get Dejanay back. If that's the case, I mean, that's a great pairing to have. Maybe Dejanay plays a little bit of the 3, and is in the starting lineup. But I do think that she will potentially be back. I'm not saying that I don't want Bridget Carleton back or that she wouldn't be great to get back. I just think that they're going to go a different direction. I think you just need more out of that position. You need more consistency offensively out of that position. BC does a lot that doesn't go noticed or isn't shown in the stat sheet. She's one of those glue type players. But there are a lot of those in free agency right now. Or there's a lot of, talented players in free agency that could fill that spot. So that's why I think that they're potentially going to just maybe not just let her go. I say that kind of like they just like, all right, see you later, BC. But BC is great. She's been great. She's a great locker room player. She's close to every single player on the team. One of the nicest human beings. But I do think that they go in a different direction this year. And I don't think you make the Dejanay Carrington trade knowing that BC is for sure your starter in that spot, because Dejanay Carrington isn't coming here to just primarily come off the bench. So that's my kind of inkling when it comes to that spot. And then I also think too, like I talked about Izzy Fudd earlier, but anybody in that wing position, you could fill somebody in behind, Kayla McBride. You could have an AZ Fudd coming off the bench, Kayla McBride. They're very similar players too, which is kind of weird, but they, Kayla McBride's getting older. She has defied father time or held off father time to this point. She doesn't skip a beat, it seems like. But she's going to get to
McBride playing 28 minutes a night, though, would be a lot better than Kayla McBride playing 38 minutes a night.
100%. And that's how you mold a player like AZ Fudd too. That's why I say this, and AZ Fudd could go number 1 overall. I really don't know, but if she's there at number 2, that's my pick. I want her here because that's a position of need. She is literally a K-Mac player, and what's the best thing to replace an old K-Mac is a young K-Mac coming in.
Especially like if K-Mac wants to finish her career here, which I would assume. Again, exit interviews saying I couldn't imagine going through this without any other team. She's literally getting up jump shots at Target Center today. Like if K-Mac's like, yeah, I'll sign for 3 years and finish my career here with Minnesota. Like this year, K-Mac, Fudd behind her. Next year, it's 50-50. Final year, you have K-Mac as like the role player, grizzled vet coming off the bench. Like it just makes a lot of sense. I'm secretly really hoping Dallas doesn't take her, because I mean, players bred in a lab to play in like a free flowing Cheryl Reeve ball movement offense and then play defense. Like AZ's like that's it. Yeah.
Right.
That is Cheryl Reeve style player to a T.
Right. And you look at, I just don't think she's a fit in Dallas. I mean, it depends, unless they get rid of somebody. You look at they're so guard heavy right now. And do you really want to bring in somebody that's not going to be a primary part of your team? Like
what happens if Paige and AZ split up? Then it's like one of them you have to trade. Yeah. I'm not saying they should break up to push the Lynx agenda, but like what happens if? Like that's an HR concern at the very least.
Well, how about maybe Lynx fans want that? No, this sounds bad because I don't hope anybody breaks up, but maybe Lynx fans want that because then maybe Paige will want out. And Minnesota, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that could be the long play. Encourage them to draft AZ. They break up. Paige wants out. Bam, point guard solved. Post is another hard cut to the final kind of bit of this, but just like first, Jude mentions still want Awa. Like Awa is. I think she's going to go number 1.
I do too.
Her age, her size, her skill. I just like, I don't know if she's a Lynx type of player because Cheryl seems, I mean, I only have been covering the Lynx since this like new iteration where it's 5 wide ball movement, team defense. Like Cheryl had Sylvia Fowles. Like, it's not like Cheryl can't figure it out, but just like, I think Awa is going to go number 1, especially after the international play this year. It's just, Larry, that's wicked. You know, we're both natural Minnesotans. We prey on pettiness and downfalls.
Yeah.
Center and post position, though, hard cut. Like Fee, again, I would be at this point stunned. Like, I don't know.
He's back.
Yeah. like Lan, kind of the same. A lot of social media stuff coming out from the Lynx, highlighting her Australia play, her Unrivaled play. Cheryl, I think, linked up with her in Unrivaled. Like, there's just like Lan, I think, understands that like I could win a lot of games and a lot of awards being next to Fee, and they play seamlessly. I think Masha's back. Like, having a great season in Russia. She really popped last year. Team really liked her. She also gave Ola some like, kinship of someone that actually speaks her language. And then Ola would kind of be my last person that I'd be willing to say are like written in pen back.
Yeah.
Shep, I just don't know. I truly don't know.
Yeah, I do think that she's going to go for the money, and rightfully so. She should.
Absolutely.
She deserves it. I think she's at a point where she's ready for a starting job, and I think somebody's going to give her that option. Maybe it's an expansion team. Who knows? But I do think that if you're Minnesota, you have Lan at the center spot. You have Masha she showed a lot of promise at the end of last year. And I think that she could establish into a great backup.
Shout out LA Sparks.
Yeah. And you have Dorka Juhas too, that if Shep leaves, you can plug in Dorka Juhas. It all depends on what style you want. If you want a bruiser, you retain Jess Shepard, but you have Masha that could do that too. If you want somebody that can stretch the floor, you go Dorka and ride with that in kind of playing a similar maybe Lan style of play. That's why I think that if I had to guess, if I'm making the decision, I think you go Lan, re-sign Masha, and see if Dorka will come back. And then you let Jess Shepard go. And then at the 4 spot, you obviously have Fee. You could still slide in Dorka in that spot. You have Kosu that could probably play the 4 or maybe even slide into the 3 a little bit.
Yep.
So it just seems like it fits a little bit better. And especially, you mentioned the 5-out style. They like to push the pace. They're not so much inside out like they were in the Sylvia Fowles era, where they went to Syl every single time. Cheryl said all the time, we got to give Syl the ball every single time down the floor. They worked inside out. Now they're outside in. They run the floor. I don't know if you necessarily need a bruiser to do that. Now, I saw somebody in the comments earlier say the Lynx struggled against big teams, and that is absolutely spot on. That is one thing that they struggled with in 25 was bigger teams and them being physical inside. That's where a Jess Shepard came in and played really well, because you need a player like that. But if Masha can continue to take a step up, and she's performed well this offseason overseas too, by the way.
She's been awesome.
If she can continue to, kind of upward trajectory towards a Jess Shepard type role, it's a cheaper option, and it allows you more flexibility elsewhere. So I that's what I think will end up happening.
I'm complete lockstep. Like I think you look at I think you like Lan and Fee have proven they can be a number 1 overall regular season defense, win a ton of games. Masha, like she's like a really bruising player for how like unassuming she is off the court, and for like on offense, she's like a 3-point stretch big. Like, I think that's a really big asset for a team like the Lynx. I mean, could they go out and get like 2 years ago trading for Maisha Hines-Allen? Like, could they go out and get like a situational big? Like, sure. But I wouldn't mess with the starters. Yeah. And Dorka, again, like Larry says, Dorka, please come back. Like, I don't know where that is. Like, again, she's been having a phenomenal season overseas.
Yeah.
I just haven't heard anything. And last year, what I had heard is that she kind of took the year off because she needed a break from basketball and didn't want to play year round. I think, European players that play over there during like, and are kind of like featured over there, they get paid pretty well. Maybe not like $300,000 a year pretty well, but I mean, she might just be happy playing over there.
Yeah. I think if she ultimately wants to come back to the WNBA, she comes back this year, because then she sets herself up for a bigger contract. That's kind of the same situation Jess Shepard was in.
Yep.
If you stay overseas, you get a suspended contract, and when you want to come back, you get that same money that you were at when you that you still have left on your contract. Basically, your contract gets put on hold, and that's what Dorky Uhas. That's the situation she's in right now. She's still under contract with the Lynx in 2026. Unless she decides not to play, then they can suspend her contract. That goes to 2027. So that's where I think that, and it is a very similar situation to Jess Shepard last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Lynx really are. I don't think they planned on Jess Shepard coming back last year, but she decided she wanted to, and she was back.
Out.
And it's the same. I think it's the same thing with maybe Dorka, is they aren't planning for her, but if she wants to come back, they'll welcome her back. And I do think that if she's going to come back, this year is the year that she will come back, just so she can set herself up for a bigger contract in 2027, if she wants to come back at all. I don't know that answer, but
I think the other thing with Dorka is, like, as a trade chip, if the Lynx were to go out and, like, again, 90% of the league are free agents, but like, if you do have Dorka on this team and you get to like June and it's just not working, like, I think she has quite a bit of value. So, I'm not planning on her being here this year. That's why I've kind of been leaving her off of a lot of stuff, just because I don't know, but it could work out. Sean Vance asks if Dallas has the number 1 pick, they can pick whoever they want, no matter the draft order, correct? Yes. I'm assuming so. Like the WNBA draft will be like a normal, just college players coming in draft. Dallas has the first pick. They get to pick anyone, foreign-born college player. There are weird like stipulations for college players that I think they have to 3 years of eligibility before they can.
I think it's 3 years of eligibility, or you have to be a certain age,
right, before they can come in. If you're a foreign-born player like Awa Pham or Ola Kosu from last year, then it's Judad's age. Okay, so it's age. Then the drafted over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the thing that's going to confuse a lot of people is the expansion draft for the new WNBA teams. That'll just be completely different. I would also assume their picks get tacked on at like the end of the lottery, or maybe the end of the first round. We just don't know yet.
I'm not entirely sure how that goes. When it comes to the WNBA draft too, they're right after the WNBA or the college basketball season ends. So after March Madness, players have, I think it's like 3 days, 72 hours, whatever it is. They have that amount of time to declare for the draft. Once that time is up, if you don't declare, you're not declared. If you do declare, you're into the pool for eligible players to be drafted in the WNBA draft. Before the draft every year, the league releases the names of the eligible players, so we will know who those players are. And to the question, yes, Dallas can choose whoever they want from that list. And there's, teams can just pick from that pool. But it's not any college player that you can pick. It's just the eligible ones that are in the draft class.
I think the other thing that's going to be a little weird with this year is there's not like a clear cut number 1. Like it's spaced itself a little bit. I think Awa and AZ have got a little bit of space over like Betts and Olivia Miles and Flauge, I think is how you pronounce her name. Like there's kind of this 1, 2, and then a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That can all change in March Madness. Like if Lauren Betts wins like the most outstanding player from the tournament and UCLA wins a national championship, I mean, that is she's like 6'7", 6'5", incredibly skilled big. Like it is just, things can change. Jude adds 6 and 7 for expansion teams. That's kind of what I thought. I just couldn't remember if it was after the lottery, if it was after the first round. Sean, of course, happy to explain. I don't think AZ is automatic to Dallas.
I don't think so either.
I really think if you're like, if the Lynx had the number 1 pick and Cheryl Reeve was the GM, but they didn't have the talent that they have right now, I think you really have to consider a 19-year-old stretch big that can do everything in our fam.
Yeah.
And then AZ is probably number 2, but I don't know. Do you have any other insight on that, Mitch?
When it comes to butts and seats in Dallas, I think Paige does enough of that. So I don't think that's a worry. I don't know if AZ Fudd's going to put them over the top when it comes to, interest in the Wings. Winning will help increase the interest in the Wings.
Yeah.
That happens with any team. I mean, if you're not winning, people aren't going to pay the money, their hard-earned money to come see you. So they just have to win, and it's easier said than done. But I do think that they have to figure out what's going to set them up best for not just this season but beyond. And maybe that's not AZ Fudd. And if it's not, then you go with whoever else. It's Awafam, it's Lauren Betts, it's Olivia Miles. Oh, maybe not Olivia Miles, but you know what I mean? It's one of those situations where you have to figure out, yes, how you can be competitive this year, but also what you need to do for the next 5 years. And I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if AZ Fudd's going to be the difference maker in uptick of attendance. It probably will to some extent. But I think, people are going to pay to come see Paige Beckers too.
Yeah.
And that's, I think they're fine there already.
I mean, you said it, like winning is the biggest thing. I also kind of look at just the WNBA is such an interesting, like, sport to cover because like you look at like Malanga.
Dominique Malanga.
So into NBA brain. I apologize to all of my WNBA diehards. By April 25th, I am going to be locked into just one sport or 2 sports because the Gophers physically can't play anymore by then.
Yeah.
Which shout out Gophers, pack the barn on Friday. But like you see with Malunga and Seattle that like if you have a really skilled big in the WNBA, it's just a cheat code. Like there isn't the size in the WNBA yet to really mess with it. Like Brittany Griner is still exceptionally effective because she is a gigantic human being.
Yeah.
I think again with if you're starting your team and you say, all right, we got Paige, we have a crap ton of salary cap, and we got a center that is, gigantic, that has skill. That's just a really good spot to start.
Yeah.
With how the league is currently set up. 5 years from now, the WNBA could be completely different and everyone is 6'1" or taller. I mean, you just never know how these things trend. But like right now, I think pairing a generational, like floor general point guard with just a massive human being that can do everything underneath makes sense.
Yeah. You got to balance too. You got to balance out that roster.
Yeah.
And that's, you got to figure out who's going to play well around Paige and Enrique. Like that has to be around every decision that you make.
And the Lynx are in a different position. Like they are more looking at who do we want to draft to replace someone 2 years from now, which is, shout out Cheryl for that trade 2 years ago to set this up. But like it does just put the Lynx in a different spot where they can kind of go, who's going to fit this team the best? Who's going to fit the culture the best? Like who do we think 2 years from now is going to be the best player, not who is the best player now, which again, like I think most people, when that Angel Reese trade went down, really kind of slammed on the Lynx for it. But now they're sitting here with a real chance to kind of bridge the Fee dynasty that's kind of currently being constructed into the next generation, which Cheryl's going to have a Popovich like 30-year run by the end of all this.
Yeah. No, that was robbery. I mean, it was robbery. Cheryl was playing chess and everybody else was playing checkers. It's credit to them. I mean, Cheryl is setting, and she always has done this, but she's setting the Lynx up for success beyond this year and beyond even in 2025. Like this is a sustainable 5-year plan that they're on. And this pick is going to be a huge pick to help with that in the transition of everything. But it's a great spot to be in. It's an absolutely great spot to be in.
Absolutely. Mitch, we're over an hour here. First off, I do want to say, like, we've had like 40 to 50 consecutive people in here through most of an hour-long live. So
listening to us
talk, which is wild. So appreciate everyone who has been in here hanging out with us. Mitch and I said it before, me and Mitch kind of teamed up, and Terry and Mitch teamed up, and then I wandered into the fold. But like, Lynx fans deserve more coverage, and I wish there was more people that did the more coverage side of it. But like, that's something that we're all passionate about, especially this season, is giving Lynx fans post-game shows, player interviews, like actual stuff that other teams have, and especially other sports have, because Lynx fans are insane. You guys are legitimately insane. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But Mitch, anything you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I want to echo what you said. Thank you to everybody for obviously following along, listening to us ramble, following us on social media, reading our content. We do it because we want to provide the coverage. We do it because of you guys, and that we never lose track of that. Like Andrew said, we want to provide coverage that everybody else gets, and that's what we're trying to do for the Lynx. That's what we're trying to do for Minnesota basketball, and just kind of everything, because you guys deserve it. Minnesota fans are some of the most passionate, some of the most battle tested, I would say, emotion wise, when it comes to our sports teams. But we'll ride the highs together. We'll ride the lows together, and we'll keep you informed throughout the whole thing. And one other thing I just want to say is we're gonna have some exciting stuff here coming up here in the next couple weeks. Now that the CBA is launched, we've kind of been teasing it for the last like 3 or 4 months, but we do have something exciting that'll hopefully get you guys to come back and to follow our work and follow our coverage. So more to come on that, but we'll have more on that here in the next week or so, and official announcement here in maybe like a few weeks from now, but before the WNBA season, now that we're finally getting there. So we're very excited for what's to come, and excited to continue this thing rolling with Andrew and Terry.
I'm just here for puns and vibes. Talk to y'all later. Appreciate everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.